The 1974 Corvette T-Top, the last breath of the chrome bumper era. Late afternoon sun spills across a quiet American boulevard as a long-nosed silhouette glides through the heat shimmer. The 1974 Chevrolet Corvette T-Top rolls into view, its stance low and predatory, its presence unmistakably Corvette. Even from a distance, there's something magnetic about it, the way it seems to crouch on its haunches, ready to pounce, yet moving with an effortless grace that speaks to decades of American sports car refinement. With its sweeping fenders, removable T-top panels, and shark-inspired profile, the 74 Vet looks like it's slicing through the air even at a standstill. Fiberglass curves flash under the golden light, each body line deliberately sculpted to catch shadows and reflections. This is a final echo of the classic C3 attitude, a last hurrah before everything changed. The chrome bumpers gleam in the sun, front and rear, bookending a design that had been perfected over years of evolution. By next year, those chrome beauties would be gone forever, replaced by body-colored polyurethane to meet new federal regulations. Older enthusiasts pause with a familiar warmth washing over them. This wasn't just a sports car, it was a symbol of freedom, of open roads stretching endlessly toward horizons, loud radios blasting rock and roll, gas station coffee in paper cups, and summer nights when everything felt possible. The 74 Corvette represented a particular moment in American culture when the optimism of the 1960s was giving way to the reality of the 1970s. But the spirit of adventure hadn't quite surrendered. A bridge between eras. Sitting at the crossroads of changing times, the 74 Corvette kept the spirit of American performance alive even as the world shifted beneath its wheels. With new safety laws and emissions regulations reshaping the automotive landscape, the Corvette still held onto raw style and presence, bridging the gap between the old muscle era and an uncertain future. The golden age of horsepower had ended with the early 70s, strangled by oil embargoes and environmental concerns. Compression ratios dropped, gross horsepower ratings gave way to more honest net figures, and the thunder of big block engines was fading into memory. Yet the Corvette persevered. Where other American performance cars were being neutered or discontinued entirely, Chevrolet's fiberglass two-seater adapted and survived. The 74 model year saw the last of the true chrome bumpers, those beautiful shining pieces that had defined automotive styling for generations. Engineers had managed one final year before the 5-minute impact standards would force a redesign. In that sense, the 1974 T-Top model became a historical marker, a dividing line between what came before and what would come after. The C3 generation, which had debuted in 1968 with its dramatic Mako shark-inspired styling, was reaching maturity. By 1974, the design had been refined and perfected through 6 model years of tweaks and improvements. The result was a car that looked cohesive and purposeful, every element working in harmony. The hideaway headlights, the pronounced fender bulges, the fastback roofline flowing into that distinctive boat-tail rear end, it all came together in a package that screamed American sports car from every angle. The T-Top innovation. The T-Top configuration itself was relatively new to the Corvette lineup, having been introduced in 1968. By 1974, it had become the preferred choice for buyers who wanted open-air driving without sacrificing structural rigidity. 2 removable glass panels flanked a central roof bar that ran from windshield to rear window, creating what Chevrolet marketed as a dual cockpit feel. When the panels were in place, you had a secure coupe. Remove them, and suddenly you were experiencing something closer to a convertible, with wind and sunshine flooding the cabin. The beauty of the T-Top design was its versatility. Unlike a traditional convertible, which required folding or removing a complex soft-top mechanism, the T-panels could be popped off in seconds and stowed behind the seats or in the rear cargo area. If weather threatened, they could be reinstalled just as quickly. This convenience, combined with the improved structural integrity compared to a full convertible, made the T-Top an instant hit with enthusiasts who wanted the best of both worlds. Storage was actually quite clever. The panels nested together and could fit in the rear cargo area without taking up too much space, though many owners simply left them at home on days when they knew they'd want open-air cruising. Each panel was tinted glass, providing some UV protection and reducing cabin heat when installed, while still maintaining excellent visibility. The center roof bar itself became a distinctive styling element, creating a unique roofline that set T-Top Corvettes apart from their coupe and convertible siblings. Tractor. The open-air experience drop into the bucket seat, and the first thing you notice is how the cabin wraps around you. This isn't a car you sit in, it's a car you wear. The seat bolsters hold you firmly in place, positioned low enough that you feel connected to the chassis, aware of every subtle movement and vibration. The steering wheel is large and thin-rimmed in the style of the era, angled toward you with purpose. Reach up and release the latches on the T-top panels. They lift away cleanly, each one surprisingly light despite being made of glass. Feel the wind spill into the cabin immediately, that first rush of outside air transforming the interior from enclosed cockpit to open-air experience. The dash wraps around you like a fighter jet's instrument panel, gauges glowing with purpose. Speedometer, tachometer, oil pressure, temperature, all arranged within easy sightlines. There's something deeply satisfying about analog gauges, the way needles sweep across faces with mechanical precision, giving you constant feedback about your machine's vital signs. Turn the key and the small block V8 rumbles to life with a confident, unmistakably Chevy heartbeat. Even with the emission controls and reduced compression ratios mandated by 1974, there's still authority in that sound. The 350 cubic inch engine might produce only a 195 horsepower in base form, a fraction of what Corvettes generated just a few years earlier. But it's delivered with a smoothness and reliability that the raw power of earlier years sometimes lacked. The optional L82 version bumped output to 250 horses, providing enough thrust to remind you this was still a genuine sports car. With the T-tops removed and the windows down, the sensation of speed amplifies dramatically. Wind buffets the cabin, whistling around the center roof bar and creating turbulence that tosses hair and carries the scent of hot asphalt and roadside flowers. The engine note changes character depending on throttle position, a gentle burble at idle, a deeper growl under acceleration, settling into a contented cruise at highway speeds. The 4-speed manual transmission, or optional 3-speed automatic, delivers power to the rear wheels through a chassis that, while not as sophisticated as modern sports cars, provides genuine driving engagement. Style over statistics. The '74 T-Top wasn't about chasing numbers, it was about attitude. A car built for cruising, for late-night drives down neon-lit strips, for people who believed style mattered just as much as speed. While horsepower figures had dropped from their stratospheric peak years, the Corvette's visual impact remained completely undiminished. That long hood stretching out ahead of you, those flowing body lines catching light and shadow, the way it sat planted on the pavement with just the right stance. This was automotive theater, American style at its most confident. Walking around the car revealed details that rewarded closer inspection. The pop-up headlights, hidden behind smooth panels when not in use, gave the front end a clean, uninterrupted surface that added to the aerodynamic appearance. Flip them up and suddenly the car had eyes, a face, personality. The front chrome bumper wrapped around the corners, integrating beautifully with the body. At the rear, the bumper echoed the same treatment, surrounding the 4 round taillights that had become a Corvette signature. Between them, the license plate recess and backup lights completed a rear view that was instantly recognizable. Side exhaust pipes were optional, emerging from just behind the front wheels and running along the rocker panels before terminating ahead of the rear wheels. When equipped, they gave the car an even more aggressive stance and a distinctive exhaust note that turned heads on every street. The standard side exit exhaust was more subtle, but still retained that characteristic Corvette rumble. Either way, the car announced itself without being obnoxious, a confident declaration, rather than a desperate plea for attention. Paint options ranged from subtle to spectacular. Classic Corvette colors like red, white, and black remained popular, but the '70s also brought bolder choices, bright yellows, oranges, and two-tone combinations that pushed the boundaries of automotive fashion. The fiberglass body took paint beautifully, the the slight texture of the material giving colors depth and dimension that steel bodies couldn't quite match. Chrome bumpers and trim pieces provided contrast and visual interest, breaking up large expanses of color and creating focal points for the eye. The interior experience. Inside, the cockpit continued the driver-focused theme. The instrument panel curved dramatically, placing all controls within easy reach. The center console housed the shifter, in manual-equipped cars, radio and climate controls, creating a distinct separation between driver and passenger spaces. Black vinyl or optional leather seats could be ordered, with contrasting stitching adding visual interest. Door panels featured storage pockets and armrests, with window switches positioned naturally where your hand would fall. The T-Top configuration created an interesting interior environment. With the panels installed, the cabin felt enclosed and intimate, the tinted glass overhead filtering sunlight and providing a sense of security. Remove the panels and everything opened up. The sky became your roof, peripheral vision expanded, and the car felt twice as large inside. The center bar remained as a visual reminder that you weren't in a full convertible, but it also provided structural benefits and a convenient place to rest your hand during cruising. Visibility was generally excellent for a sports car of this era. The long hood meant you couldn't see the front corners of the car, but you developed a sense for where they were after a few drives. The rear window was reasonably sized, offering adequate rearward vision, though the fastback design and rear deck height meant there were blind spots to be aware of. Door mirrors were essential equipment, and many owners added additional mirrors to improve visibility when changing lanes. None. The driving character. On the road, the '74 Corvette displayed a character that was uniquely American. This wasn't a nimble European sports car that darted through corners with surgical precision. Instead, it offered a more relaxed, confident approach to performance. The suspension soaked up highway imperfections with surprising comfort, making long-distance cruising genuinely pleasant. The steering, while lacking modern precision, communicated road surface texture and provided enough feedback to place the car accurately through corners. Body roll was present but controlled. The car leaned into turns with a deliberate motion that felt natural and predictable. Push harder, and the limits were high enough to be enjoyable without being intimidating. The rear-wheel drive layout meant throttle steering was possible for skilled drivers, adding another dimension to the driving experience. In everyday driving, the car felt solid and planted, inspiring confidence on both highways and back roads. The ride quality struck a balance between sports car firmness and touring car comfort. Bumps were felt but not harsh, the suspension doing its job without beating up occupants. Road noise was moderate with the T-tops installed, increasing significantly when they were removed. But that was part of the experience. The windrush, tire roar, and engine note all combined into a symphony of mechanical sounds that enthusiasts cherished. This was a car to be experienced with multiple senses, not just driven. Or cultural context. Understanding. The 1974 Corvette requires understanding the era that produced it. America in 1974 was dealing with the aftermath of the 1973 oil crisis, which had sent gas prices soaring and created long lines at filling stations. The muscle car era had ended abruptly as insurance rates skyrocketed and fuel economy became a national concern. Many performance cars were being discontinued or transformed into shadow versions of their former selves. Yet the Corvette survived. Chevrolet's commitment to America's sports car never wavered, even when market conditions suggested maybe it should. The '74 model proved that performance could be redefined. It wasn't just about raw horsepower anymore. It was about the complete experience, the emotional connection, the style and presence that made every drive feel special. In this context, the T-Top configuration was perfect. It enhanced the experience without requiring more power or speed. The buyers who chose '74 Corvettes were making a statement. They were refusing to accept that the fun was over, that practicality and fuel economy were the only considerations that mattered. They wanted beauty, excitement, and freedom, and they were willing to accept the compromises of lower horsepower figures to keep that spirit alive. Many were successful professionals who had grown up dreaming of owning a Corvette and finally had the means to make it happen. Others were younger enthusiasts who saw the Corvette as attainable in a way that exotic imports could never be. The legacy. The 1974 Corvette T-Top stands as one of the most memorable moments in C3 history, a blend of freedom, style, and old-school American character that still turns heads decades later. It represented the end of an aesthetic era, the last year before federal bumper regulations permanently altered the Corvette's face. For those who remember seeing these cars new, cruising main streets on summer evenings, or parked at drive-ins under starlight, the memories remain vivid and warm. Today, well-preserved examples command respect at car shows and cruise nights. They're not the most valuable Corvettes. That honor goes to earlier big-block cars and rare race-bred models. But they hold a special place in enthusiasts' hearts. The chrome bumpers gleam under show lights, the T-tops invite admiration, and the overall presence still captivates. Younger generations discovering C3 Corvettes often find themselves drawn to the 74, specifically because it represents that last moment before everything changed. Mechanically, these cars have proven remarkably durable. The small-block Chevy engine is one of the most reliable and serviceable power plants ever produced, with parts readily available and knowledge widespread. The fiberglass body doesn't rust, though it can crack if stressed. With proper maintenance, a 74 Corvette can provide decades of driving enjoyment, maintaining that connection to automotive history while still being usable in modern traffic. The 74 T-Top reminds us that sometimes the journey matters more than the destination, that style and soul count for something, and that the rumble of a V8 under a fiberglass hood can still stir emotions decades after the car was built. It's a rolling time capsule, preserving not just a design, but an entire attitude toward life, one that valued freedom, individuality, and the simple pleasure of driving for its own sake. As the sun sets on that quiet boulevard and the 74 Corvette disappears around a corner, its taillights glowing red in the gathering dusk, something lingers in the air. Maybe it's nostalgia, maybe it's longing for simpler times, or maybe it's just the recognition that some things, certain shapes, certain sounds, certain feelings, transcend their era and become timeless. The 1974 Corvette T-Top earned that distinction, and it wears the honor beautifully.